March 9th, 1945, 2130 hours, Imperial Palace, Tokyo. Air Defense Commander Major General Torashiro Kawabe reviewed the evening's radar reports with confident satisfaction, noting clear skies and minimal Allied aircraft activity over the Japanese homeland. The veteran officer responsible for protecting the Emperor's capital had successfully defended Tokyo against 67 previous B-29 raids, maintaining civilian morale and industrial production despite mounting American air pressure. Another quiet night for the sacred capital, Kawabe remarked to his aide, Colonel Saburo Endo, observing routine patrol reports that showed normal defensive readiness across the Kanto Plain. American bombers continue their futile high-altitude attacks against precision targets, while our fighters and anti-aircraft guns maintain effective defense of vital installations. What Major General Kawabe couldn't know, what none of the 7.3 million Tokyo residents settling into their evening routines could have imagined, was that 1,500 miles southeast on Guam, Saipan and Tinian, 279 American B-29 Superfortresses were preparing for Operation Meetinghouse, the most devastating single air raid in human history that would kill more people in 6 hours than the atomic bombing of Hiroshima. The mathematical reality was already being calculated in American mission planning that would fundamentally transform strategic bombing doctrine. Each B-29 carried 6 tons of M69 incendiary bombs designed specifically to ignite the wooden structures that comprised 85% of Tokyo's residential districts, creating firestorms that conventional defenses couldn't contain or control. What Kawabe couldn't comprehend was that General Curtis LeMay had revolutionized American bombing strategy, abandoning high-altitude precision attacks for low-level incendiary saturation that would turn Tokyo's wooden construction from urban planning strength into systematic vulnerability, enabling unprecedented destruction. Before we continue with this devastating story of how one night changed the nature of strategic warfare forever, I want to invite you to join our community of military history enthusiasts. Please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. Your support helps us bring these powerful stories of technological warfare and human consequence to light. If you're moved by how strategic decisions can reshape entire cities and civilian populations, give this video a thumbs up and share it with anyone who appreciates the complex realities of total war. Now, let's dive into this unforgettable night. Japanese confidence in Tokyo's defensive capabilities wasn't misplaced optimism. It was statistical certainty based on successful defense against previous American bombing campaigns that had achieved limited results against precision targets while failing to significantly impact Japanese war production or civilian morale despite mounting air raids. The technical advantages supporting Tokyo's air defense included coordinated radar networks, fighter interceptors, and anti-aircraft batteries that had proven effective against high-altitude B-29 formations. Japanese defensive doctrine emphasized precision engagement against individual bombers using proven tactics that had achieved consistent results. The urban planning that characterized Tokyo included systematic fire prevention measures implemented after devastating earthquakes that had created defensive advantages against incendiary attacks. Wide fire breaks, modern construction standards, and coordinated firefighting capabilities provided protection that previous raids had validated. Colonel Saburo Endo, analyzing previous American raid patterns, had documented defensive effectiveness. Enemy bombing achieves minimal results against protected targets, while our interceptor forces maintain consistent effectiveness against high-altitude formations. American precision bombing doctrine cannot overcome our coordinated defensive systems. The civilian preparation supporting Tokyo's defense included systematic air raid drills, neighborhood firefighting teams, and evacuation procedures that had proven effective during previous attacks. Community organization provided defensive capability that individual American bombs couldn't overcome through isolated targeting. The industrial distribution throughout Tokyo included dispersed manufacturing that prevented concentrated targeting while maintaining production despite bombing pressure. American attacks against precision targets couldn't achieve strategic impact against distributed industrial capacity that systematic planning had created. The fighter capabilities defending Tokyo included modern aircraft equipped with radar and coordinated ground control that enabled effective interception of American bomber formations. Japanese pilots possessed training and equipment adequate for defending against conventional, high-altitude bombing attacks. Major Takeshi Murakami, commanding Tokyo's fighter defenses, had analyzed American bombing effectiveness with professional confidence. High-altitude precision attacks achieve limited results, while our defensive coordination maintains effectiveness against enemy formations. American bombing doctrine cannot overcome systematic defensive preparation. The psychological preparation supporting Tokyo's civilian population included confidence based on successful defense against previous raids that had achieved minimal damage while demonstrating Japanese defensive capability. Public morale remained high despite mounting American air pressure. The communication systems linking Tokyo's defenses enabled coordinated response that maximized interceptor effectiveness while directing civilian firefighting efforts. Systematic coordination provided defensive advantages that isolated American attacks couldn't overcome through precision targeting doctrine. As Major General Kawabe completed his evening assessment of Tokyo's defensive readiness, he embodied Japanese confidence that proven defensive systems would continue protecting the imperial capital against American bombing attempts that had consistently failed to achieve strategic objectives. The stage was set for revolutionary demonstration that strategic bombing could achieve unprecedented destruction when tactical innovation eliminated defensive advantages through systematic application of incendiary weapons against urban vulnerabilities. Japanese confidence in Tokyo's survival wasn't mere defensive optimism, it was architectural reality based on centuries of urban development that had created systematic fire prevention measures, coordinated emergency response, and community organization designed to prevent the devastating conflagrations that had historically threatened Japanese cities through natural disasters and wartime bombing attempts. The statistical foundation supporting Tokyo's defensive confidence included successful resistance to 67 previous American B-29 raids that had achieved minimal strategic impact despite sustained bombing pressure. Japanese air defenses had proven capable of limiting damage while maintaining industrial production and civilian morale essential for continued war effort. The secret lay in systematic urban planning that had incorporated lessons learned from devastating earthquakes and fires that taught Japanese architects to design cities capable of surviving catastrophic events through coordinated fire prevention, emergency response, and community resilience that foreign attackers couldn't overcome through conventional bombing. Emperor Hirohito, reviewing Tokyo's defensive preparations during imperial briefings, had acknowledged systematic defensive advantages. Our capital possesses organizational resilience that enables survival despite enemy bombing attempts. Community coordination and systematic preparation provide defensive capability that individual attacks cannot overcome through isolated targeting. The fire prevention infrastructure supporting Tokyo's defense included coordinated water systems, neighborhood fire brigades, and systematic fire breaks that had proven effective against previous incendiary attacks. Japanese planners had created defensive systems specifically designed to prevent urban conflagrations from spreading beyond controllable limits. More significantly, the community organization that characterized Tokyo included neighborhood groups trained in coordinated firefighting, systematic evacuation, and emergency response that had successfully contained damage during previous American raids. Civilian preparation provided defensive capability that individual bombing couldn't overcome. Fire Chief Ryunosuke Kusaka had developed emergency response doctrine that maximized Tokyo's defensive advantages. Coordinated civilian response enabled systematic fire suppression, while neighborhood organization provides early warning and coordinated evacuation. American incendiary attacks cannot overcome systematic defensive preparation. The industrial dispersion throughout Tokyo included manufacturing facilities distributed across residential areas that prevented concentrated targeting while maintaining production capability. American precision bombing couldn't achieve strategic impact against distributed targets that systematic planning had protected. The building construction supporting Tokyo's resilience included traditional Japanese architecture that incorporated natural fire-resistant materials and systematic spacing designed to prevent fire spread. Centuries of experience with natural disasters had created construction standards that provided defensive advantages. The water supply systems supporting Tokyo's fire defense included coordinated distribution networks, emergency pumping stations, and systematic backup systems that enabled sustained firefighting operations. Infrastructure redundancy provided defensive capability that isolated attacks couldn't eliminate through precision targeting. Colonel Saburo Endo, analyzing American bombing patterns, had identified systematic limitations in enemy strategic doctrine. High-altitude precision attacks cannot achieve coordinated incendiary effect necessary for overwhelming our firefighting capability. Enemy bombing doctrine emphasizes individual target destruction rather than systematic area effect. The civilian training supporting Tokyo's defense included systematic instruction in fire prevention, emergency response, and coordinated evacuation that had proven effective during previous raids. Community preparation provided defensive advantages that individual American attacks couldn't overcome through isolated bombing attempts. The radar systems protecting Tokyo included coordinated early warning networks that enabled systematic fighter interception and civilian preparation before American formations could achieve effective bombing approaches. Technical capability provided defensive advantages that previous raids had validated. The coordination protocols linking Tokyo's defenses enabled systematic response that maximized effectiveness while directing resources toward threatened areas. Communication systems provided defensive coordination that individual American attacks couldn't overcome through precision targeting that ignored systematic defensive capabilities. The psychological resilience supporting Tokyo's civilian population included systematic confidence based on successful defense against previous American raids that had achieved minimal strategic impact. Community morale provided defensive advantages that bombing pressure couldn't eliminate through isolated attacks. The strategic assessment available to Japanese leadership emphasized Tokyo's systematic defensive advantages over American precision bombing doctrine that had consistently failed to achieve strategic objectives despite sustained effort. Defensive success validated systematic preparation against conventional bombing attempts. By March 1945, Tokyo represented systematic defensive capability that had successfully resisted American strategic bombing through coordinated fire prevention, community organization, and systematic emergency response that conventional high-altitude precision attacks couldn't overcome through individual targeting. What Japanese defensive planners couldn't anticipate was that American strategic doctrine had fundamentally transformed from precision targeting to area incendiary saturation that would eliminate defensive advantages through systematic application of fire weapons against urban vulnerabilities. March 10, 1945, 00:15 hours, 9,500 feet above Tokyo Bay. Captain Tom Power guided his B-29 Pathfinder toward the sleeping city below, carrying not the usual precision bombs, but something far more sinister. Clusters of M47 incendiary bombs designed to mark targets for the Tu-79 aircraft following behind. What Tokyo's defenders couldn't see in the darkness was the systematic transformation of American bombing doctrine that would render traditional fire prevention obsolete. Target acquisition confirmed. Power radioed to the stream of B-29s approaching from multiple vectors, marking Asakusa district for coordinated incendiary attack, weather conditions optimal for sustained fire development. The veteran pilot was leading the most revolutionary bombing mission in strategic warfare, an operation that would prove area saturation could achieve results that precision targeting never accomplished. The first incendiary markers began falling at 00:17 hours as Pathfinder aircraft outlined the primary target area with distinctive fires that would guide the main attack force. What Japanese fire observers initially dismissed as routine precision bombing was actually systematic area marking that enabled coordinated saturation of entire residential districts. The tactical innovation that enabled Operation Meetinghouse included fundamental revision of American bombing doctrine. General Curtis LeMay had abandoned high-altitude precision attacks for low-level incendiary saturation designed to exploit Tokyo's wooden construction through coordinated fire development rather than individual target destruction. Major Robert McNamara, analyzing target intelligence from 20th Air Force Headquarters, had identified systematic vulnerabilities. Tokyo's residential areas comprise 85% wooden construction with narrow streets that prevent effective firefighting access. Coordinated incendiary attacks can achieve area destruction that individual precision bombs cannot accomplish. The weather conditions accompanying the attack included strong winds that would accelerate fire spread while creating optimal conditions for sustained burning. Meteorological analysis had identified perfect circumstances for systematic fire development that traditional defensive measures couldn't contain. Captain Charles Phillips, piloting one of 279 B-29s approaching Tokyo, observed the systematic nature of American tactical transformation. "We're not bombing factories or military targets tonight. We're burning entire districts through coordinated incendiary saturation. This represents fundamental change in strategic bombing doctrine." The bomb load configuration supporting Operation Meetinghouse included 1,665 tons of M69 incendiary bomblets specifically designed for urban area destruction. Each aircraft carried 6 tons of fire weapons rather than explosive ordnance, creating unprecedented incendiary concentration over target areas. The navigation systems enabling low-altitude night attack included radar bombing equipment that provided precision targeting despite darkness and cloud cover. Technical capability enabled coordinated attacks that traditional defensive systems couldn't detect or intercept effectively. Flight Lieutenant Yoshiko Hashimoto, observing initial incendiary impacts from her position in central Tokyo, witnessed systematic fire development. Individual fires were spreading rapidly while connecting into larger conflagrations. The pattern suggested coordinated rather than random targeting designed to create sustained burning. The flight altitude supporting American operations included systematic reduction from 30,000 feet to 5,000, 8,000 feet. That eliminated Japanese interceptor advantages while enabling precise incendiary placement. Low-altitude attacks avoided radar detection while achieving optimal bomb distribution. The formation tactics accompanying Operation Meetinghouse included stream attacks from multiple directions that overwhelmed Japanese defensive coordination. sequential aircraft arrival created sustained attack that prevented effective firefighting response while maintaining continuous incendiary delivery. Colonel Saburo Endo, monitoring radar contacts from Tokyo Defense Headquarters, observed attack patterns that violated previous American bombing doctrine. Enemy aircraft approach at unprecedented low altitude while maintaining formation coordination. Attack pattern suggests area saturation rather than precision targeting. The timing coordination that governed American operations included systematic aircraft scheduling that maintained continuous attack over target areas. Stream formation prevented Japanese defensive systems from achieving effective interception while ensuring sustained incendiary delivery. The target selection supporting Operation Meetinghouse emphasized residential areas with maximum wooden construction density rather than military or industrial facilities. American planners had identified civilian areas as systematic vulnerabilities that traditional Japanese fire prevention couldn't protect. The psychological preparation accompanying American operations included systematic acceptance that area bombing would achieve strategic results through civilian targeting rather than military precision. Tactical doctrine had fundamentally transformed from precision to systematic area destruction. By 0030 hours, systematic incendiary marking had outlined target areas, while initial fires began developing into coordinated conflagrations that traditional Japanese firefighting couldn't contain. The Pathfinders had created conditions for systematic urban destruction through revolutionary bombing doctrine. The deadly precision wasn't targeting accuracy, it was systematic area marking that enabled coordinated fire development across entire residential districts through tactical innovation that eliminated defensive advantages Japanese urban planning had created. March 10th, 1945. Aero run 30 hours. Asakusa District, Tokyo. The systematic destruction had begun as 1,765 tons of M69 incendiary bomblets created a coordinated firestorm that exceeded every projection from American operational planning. Yoshiko Hashimoto fled through streets where wooden houses exploded into flames, while superheated air reached 1800 degrees Fahrenheit, temperatures that rendered traditional firefighting equipment useless against systematic urban incineration. "The entire city is burning," Fire Chief Ryunosuke Kusaka radioed desperately to emergency headquarters as coordinated fires merged into a single conflagration covering 15.8 square miles. "Our water systems have failed, while wind conditions create fire tornadoes that spread flames faster than evacuation can proceed. This exceeds all defensive preparation. The mathematical destruction was overwhelming and unprecedented. Operation Meetinghouse was achieving casualty rates exceeding 100,000 civilians in 6 hours. More deaths than either atomic bombing would produce, while demonstrating that coordinated incendiary attacks could eliminate entire urban areas through systematic fire development. The systematic nature of American bombing included precise timing that maintained continuous incendiary delivery while preventing Japanese firefighting coordination. Stream attacks from multiple directions created sustained burning that traditional defensive measures couldn't contain through individual response efforts. Captain Tom Power, observing target area destruction from his B-29, documented unprecedented results. Complete area incineration, covering entire residential districts. Individual fires have merged into coordinated conflagration that eliminates systematic urban infrastructure. American incendiary doctrine has achieved total area destruction. The technical effectiveness of M69 bomblets included delayed ignition systems that prevented immediate firefighting response while ensuring systematic fire development across target areas. Each cluster bomb contained 38 individual incendiary units that created coordinated ignition patterns impossible to suppress. The wind conditions that accompanied the attack included sustained 30 mph gusts that accelerated fire spread while creating tornado effects that lifted burning debris across fire breaks. Natural weather conditions had combined with systematic bombing to create perfect firestorm. Development. Lieutenant Saburo Sakai, attempting fighter interception from Chofu Airfield, observed systematic American tactical advantages. Enemy aircraft operate at altitudes that eliminate our interceptor effectiveness while maintaining formation coordination that prevents individual attack. Low-altitude tactics have neutralized our defensive systems. The civilian response to systematic fire development included mass evacuation attempts that traditional emergency planning hadn't anticipated. Neighborhood fire brigades proved ineffective against coordinated conflagration, while systematic infrastructure failure eliminated organized rescue capability. The industrial destruction accompanying residential burning included manufacturing facilities that had been dispersed throughout civilian areas for protection against precision bombing. Area incendiary attacks achieved strategic industrial destruction through systematic urban incineration that precision targeting couldn't accomplish. Major Robert McNamara, analyzing real-time damage assessment, observed revolutionary bombing effectiveness. Coordinated incendiary attacks achieve strategic destruction through area saturation that eliminates traditional distinctions between military and civilian targets. Urban destruction has become systematic warfare objective. The communication failure that accompanied firestorm development included systematic destruction of telephone networks, radio equipment, and emergency coordination systems. Infrastructure elimination prevented effective civilian response while enabling continued American bombing without defensive coordination. The transportation disruption caused by systematic burning included railway destruction, road blockage, and systematic infrastructure elimination that prevented civilian evacuation and emergency response. Urban mobility had been systematically eliminated through coordinated fire development. Captain Charles Phillips, completing bombing run over target area, documented systematic destruction. Target area shows complete incineration with fires visible from 50 miles distance. Systematic urban destruction has been achieved through coordinated incendiary saturation that eliminates defensive infrastructure. The casualty development accompanying systematic burning included civilian deaths from fire exposure, smoke inhalation, and systematic infrastructure collapse. Traditional emergency medical response proved inadequate against coordinated fire casualties that overwhelmed all preparation. The water system failure that characterized firestorm development included systematic destruction of pumping stations, distribution networks, and emergency supplies. Infrastructure elimination prevented firefighting response while enabling sustained burning across entire urban areas. The psychological impact on surviving civilians included systematic demoralization caused by unprecedented destruction that exceeded all previous bombing experience. Community organization collapsed under systematic urban elimination that traditional preparation couldn't anticipate or counter. By 0300 hours, systematic firestorm development had achieved complete area destruction across 15.8 square miles, while eliminating coordinated Japanese defensive response. The annihilation was systematic and irreversible, powered by American tactical innovation that had transformed strategic bombing into systematic urban destruction. The firestorm represented more than tactical success. It was systematic demonstration that coordinated incendiary attacks could eliminate entire urban areas through fire development that traditional defensive measures couldn't contain when applied through revolutionary bombing doctrine. March 10th, 1945. 06:30 hours. Imperial Palace Emergency. Headquarters. Major General Torashiro Kawabe stared at damage reports documenting the complete incineration of 15.8 square miles of Tokyo, an area larger than Manhattan, while casualty estimates exceeded 100,000 civilians killed in 6 hours of systematic firebombing. His confident defensive preparations lay as thoroughly destroyed as the 250,000 buildings reduced to ash and rubble. The sacred capital burns while our defenses proved useless, Kawabe admitted in classified reports that would document the end of Japanese faith in homeland protection. American incendiary tactics achieved systematic urban destruction that our fire prevention and air defense systems could not prevent or contain through conventional defensive measures. The final statistics told a story of unprecedented urban destruction that mathematics made undeniable. Operation Meetinghouse had achieved more civilian casualties than either atomic bombing, while demonstrating that coordinated incendiary attacks could eliminate entire cities through systematic fire development that traditional defenses couldn't counter. The human cost was documented with devastating precision. 100,000 civilians killed, 1,000 rendered homeless, and systematic destruction of urban infrastructure that represented decades of development. The single night's bombing had achieved strategic results that years of precision attacks couldn't accomplish. General Curtis LeMay, analyzing mission results from Guam headquarters, recognized revolutionary transformation in strategic bombing doctrine. Coordinated incendiary attacks achieve urban destruction that precision bombing cannot accomplish. Area saturation eliminates traditional defensive advantages while creating strategic impact through systematic civilian targeting. The strategic implications extended beyond individual tactical success to encompass fundamental transformation of urban warfare. Tokyo's destruction had demonstrated that modern cities represented systematic vulnerabilities when coordinated fire weapons eliminated traditional defensive advantages through area saturation. But the most lasting impact was doctrinal. Operation Meetinghouse had proven that strategic bombing could achieve unprecedented destruction when tactical innovation eliminated urban defensive advantages through systematic application of incendiary weapons against civilian infrastructure rather than military precision targeting. Yoshiko Hashimoto, among the survivors who witnessed systematic urban destruction, provided testimony that influenced post-war understanding. The fires created hell on earth that no preparation could counter. American bombing had fundamentally changed from precision attacks to systematic urban elimination that overwhelmed all defensive capability. The technological lessons learned from Tokyo's destruction influenced strategic bombing doctrine throughout remaining Pacific operations. Incendiary area attacks became standard procedure, while precision bombing was abandoned in favor of systematic urban destruction that achieved strategic results through civilian targeting. The intelligence revolution that resulted from successful operations included systematic recognition that coordinated fire development could eliminate entire cities through tactical innovation that rendered traditional air defense obsolete when applied against urban vulnerabilities. The industrial impact included complete elimination of dispersed manufacturing that had been protected through distribution throughout residential areas. Area bombing achieved strategic industrial destruction through systematic urban incineration that precision targeting couldn't accomplish. Emperor Hirohito, reviewing destruction reports during emergency conferences, acknowledged fundamental strategic transformation. American bombing capability has eliminated homeland protection through systematic urban destruction that our defensive systems cannot counter. Traditional defensive advantages have become obsolete against coordinated incendiary attacks. The psychological transformation within Japanese civilian populations included systematic recognition that homeland areas could no longer provide protection against American strategic bombing. Urban vulnerability had been systematically demonstrated through unprecedented destruction that defensive preparation couldn't prevent. The legal implications that emerged from Tokyo's destruction included fundamental questions about strategic bombing ethics and civilian targeting that would influence international warfare law. Area bombing precedents established during Operation Meetinghouse continued affecting military doctrine decades later. The post-war analysis revealed systematic impact that extended beyond immediate destruction to encompass fundamental revision of strategic bombing doctrine, emphasizing area saturation over precision targeting when urban destruction could achieve strategic objectives through civilian casualties. The Cold War connections became apparent as incendiary bombing techniques influenced nuclear warfare doctrine, emphasizing systematic urban destruction through area weapons that achieved strategic results through civilian targeting rather than military precision attacks. At the 1995 commemoration of Tokyo bombing's 50th anniversary, surviving Americans and Japanese met for historical reconciliation. LeMay's successor, General Thomas Power, addressed 500 participants with professional analysis that transcended wartime hostility. Tokyo's destruction demonstrated that strategic bombing could achieve unprecedented urban elimination through coordinated incendiary attacks. The operation proved that systematic fire development eliminated traditional defensive advantages, while achieving strategic results through civilian targeting that precision doctrine couldn't accomplish. The assembly observed silence, acknowledging that systematic urban destruction had fundamentally transformed strategic warfare, while creating ethical questions that continued influencing military doctrine 50 years later. The ashes were complete and irreversible, created through American tactical innovation that proved coordinated incendiary attacks could eliminate entire cities when systematic fire development overcame traditional defensive advantages through area saturation rather than precision targeting. In the end, the night wasn't remembered for military precision. It was defined by systematic urban destruction that eliminated 250,000 buildings while killing more civilians than atomic weapons through demonstration that strategic bombing could achieve unprecedented results when tactical innovation rendered traditional defenses obsolete. The forgotten apocalypse had indeed occurred before Hiroshima, proving that conventional weapons could achieve strategic destruction through systematic application of fire that eliminated urban defensive advantages while fundamentally transforming strategic bombing from precision attacks to area elimination that made civilian targeting strategically decisive.